Welcome, everyone. It is April 18th, 2023. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America
and to the republic
which is
for which it stands,
one nation
under God,
indivisible,
liberty and justice
for all.
for all. This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law GLC 30A Section 20. On March 29, 2023, Governor Healy signed a supplemental 2023 budget bill allowing remote and hybrid meeting options for public bodies through March 31st, 2025. This meeting is being recorded. Well, hello again. So we're on our wind down. So I think our agenda tonight is light. We're down to finally presentation materials for town meeting and for whatever we can get out before town meeting, which is helpful. So things can get in the hands of electronically into the hands. So one of the documents that we have to discuss tonight is the fiscal 24 budget memo, which is pretty similar to the memo that was published last year, updated, of course, for new numbers and some new things to highlight and change. And so that's I sent you all a draft a few weeks ago. And then I sent you the more up-to-date and hopefully close to final version on Sunday. So I've had a few people help proofread it, so which is helpful. So, so I didn't know if anyone has any comments, wants to go through things on that. And then once, hopefully we can get that taken care of tonight, and then that can start to get published. So does anyone have any comments? So I've circulated it to Buzzy and Cindy, and I have kind of gone back and forth on a few elements. So I can't, didn't open it up to the full committee because then we wouldn't want to be engaging in conversation. So, but go ahead, Buzzy, you've got your hand up.
Yes, you shared with us an exchange of emails with Mike Rodriguez. I didn't quite understand what his suggestion was. And has there been any change as a result of that suggestion?
Well, just let me back up 1 second to the committee. So when I had circulated the memo a couple of weeks ago and as a courtesy to Michael Rodriguez and Paul Schmidt, because we do talk a lot about state aid and how the town is in need of additional state aid. They expressed some concerns and felt that we might have been over targeting the state as being a little too heavily on that, and was a little concerned of one of the charts that I had, which listed state aid in the aggregate, and said that it can be construed as misleading because Chapter 70 is such a significant element in state aid, and that varies with enrollment. So I took their advice and separated it out into two different buckets, the general government aid and then the educational aid. But it still, in essence, shows the same thing, that state aid has really declined at the Great Recession from 2008. And although it's been recovering, it still has not recovered at a rate that makes up for its delay, nor for taking into account for inflation. So I modified those reports, and then I did, as a courtesy, sent it to Michael Rodriguez and Paul Schmidt to make sure that they didn't feel anything else was misrepresentational, and they did not. But the one comment that Buzzy did mention was And I'm not totally clear on the comment either, Buzzy, so you read it just as I did.
That was political speak. That was absolutely political speak.
So I can't say for
Yeah.
sure, but I can find the comment and I'd be happy to read. Let's see, I think it was a comment around, we made a comment about state aid, how we have state mandates and the state aid hasn't increased as a result of some of the state mandates. And I believe the comment was that the state does supply additional dollars when there's state mandates. I think that's what Senator Rodrick was trying to indicate, but
Okay.
go ahead. Sure.
Yeah. So, we are an independent body and a voice to the residents. And
Absolutely.
I just find it kind of a little disheartening maybe that first of all, I want to say the amount of work that Karen, that you've done on this report is unbelievable. I mean, it is to me like a model report if a town was to go, or a city was to go out for an override. Now, let's face it, there are unfunded mandates in these budgets that, quite frankly, do not get funding from the state. And let's be realistic here. In the past, to the legislature's defense, they came and gave us a little bit more for state-owned land. Remember, we had the issue with Boston Neck Beach. They followed through, so that was unbelievable. But for us to say that there are funding sources available for each and every unfunded mandate in the budget is an inaccurate statement, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And let's look at the schools, for instance. Look at all the unfunded mandates that the schools have gotten. SPED, you go down the list. How are those being addressed? So I think Cindy's right. It's a political statement that, to me, is inaccurate. And whether or not we want to take a slide out here or move a slide, I mean, to me, at this point, I think Karen has done a great job with this report, and I think it speaks for itself, even if the slide is in there or not. So that I just wanted to say that, that's my take on it, and I don't think we should be led by anyone's pressure to say, well, they don't agree with the report. It is what it is.
Not to jump in front of you, I'm just going to read that comment just in case not everyone has had a chance to read Michael Rodrick's comment. So I'll just read it.
Before you read it for
Okay.
1 second. And so, Gary, you're absolutely right. So it's an independent report by the Finance Committee. And just as I did last year as a courtesy, I sent it to them in advance. And, I sent it to them really with the intention with just, please let me know if you feel that there's anything that's not factual in here. So, I'm not looking, our opinion is our opinion, right? And so,
Right.
it's not even an opinion, we're stating the facts, right? So we're trying to be objective and, which I think the report is. And so, no one can tell us what to put in the report or not to put in the report, right? But we want to make a report that's representative and not inaccurate, right? So that was really the courtesy to them, but you're absolutely right. We're under no obligation to do, and we want it to be factual and we want it to be representational. But go ahead.
So for the record, I just wanted on record what the statement was from Michael Rodrick. This looks much better. My only suggested edit is to strike the words, quote, or to help find additional required expenses as a result of state mandate requirements, unquote. He goes on to say, Proposition 2.5 spells out a process for something to defined as his words don't make sense. I'm reading it verbatim. Spells out a process for something defined as an unfounded mandate. And the legislature consequently provides the resources. Yeah, right. Most recently, think voting by mail. Oh boy, I'm so glad we got reimbursed for that. Other than that is a very comprehensive factual document. So I would run with that. I mean, I don't think he's really, it was a suggested edit. He wasn't adamant about it. We all know, as Gary said, we all know there are plenty of those expenses. So I'll yield the floor. You had his hand up.
Go ahead, Hugh.
Well, it's CYA, obviously. But the more important thing is the mandates are one thing, et cetera. It's just the lack of money. And you do it, the arithmetic speaks for itself. Forget the additional expenses from mandates and so forth. The money is less than it would have been. There are a lot of things that aren't mandated by the state per se, but are mandated by circumstances. Police, fire, roads, everything else that goes on. So, you know, it's a distraction. It doesn't really do anything. You're wise to touch base, but I think we take it for, as I mentioned to begin with.
Yeah, thanks. You know, I would love for both Jim and Mr. Auburn to put together a list of their state mandates, and let's help him link to us where they're funded. So let's hold that comment and let's see where they're funded. You know, that
That's a great
MMA,
idea.
right? You know, let's show us where we got the money for it.
Show me the money.
Yeah. And, you know, I think reading even that MMA article, which is referenced in the document, they even discuss that, especially in terms of Chapter 70, the school hasn't got so many state mandates that Chapter 70 hasn't kept up with that. So that's, you know, right in the MMA's, that same article. But anyway, so, I think we're no issues there, but thank you, Gary. I appreciate your, acknowledging, yes, it was an extremely lot of time to produce it, but you know, hopefully it serves as great information for people, and the sooner we can get it out and get it circulating and, you know, help answer questions for people.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that this committee has not done, I think, its due diligence to at least educate the public on the need of an override. There's no question. And now it's really up to the residents to decide whether or not they want to move forward with this. But I think we've done as much as we can. I mean, I don't know, bar from what we can't do, go out there and you know, hold signs for the thing. This really, I mean, I think we've done a lot, you know, over the last few months collectively.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Hugh.
I'm just going to say, Buzzy pointed this out a while ago. I don't mean to repeat it, but this is not the override. That will be after the town meeting, because the override is the election will take place whenever it takes place. So this is inning one.
Right. It sets the table, though.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is right, but it is not the ninth inning or the seventh game, depending upon your analogy.
Yes, and Buzzy.
Yeah, I think you just can't say it too often, and you can't say it too many ways. I think next we need to work very hard on something which is less overwhelming, but makes the most important points in a compelling fashion.
Yes, exactly. And so just as I had done last year too, and so I haven't got to it yet, but so then at town meeting, we had a very small presentation that opens up town meeting. You know, I tried to keep it to less than 5 minutes. And I extracted information from the same memo and kind of put it in a summary. So I'll work on that, and then I'll be happy to forward that to the committee. So the good news is we don't have to engage in new content. It's really taking this 25-page report and slimming it down to, you know, almost 1 or 2 pages. So, you know, there'll be a key slide or two that comes in there to keep the interest going. But it needs to be short, condensed, sweet, to the point, because if it's too long, you lose everyone. And what we had done last year too, so we had taken this document and it got put up on the town website. And so it'll be right in there under budget documents. So people will have the next 2 weeks to go to the town website, download their PDF themselves, and they can read it. And we even printed it out at town meeting. So this way people could have it with them while they were sitting and waiting, they could read through it. So I know it's a lot of paper, but they can, the document doesn't go stale once town meeting is over. So it lasts, for longer. So people can hold on to it.
Yeah, just a small point, and that is the next one I think has to be directed not at Article 5, but at Article 6.
So there's two, I agree. So there's two different pieces. One is Article 5 to really go through what the budget is, because that is the fiscal 24 budget. So that is its own presentation of the article. I think we need a second small presentation that after we go through, so this presentation opens up the town meeting, and then we proceed through. Then when we get to Article 6, which is the supplemental budget appropriation, I think we need its own standalone, very short, very simple presentation that brings everyone up to speed. Because again, even if the first presentation is 5 minutes, it's still 5 minutes, and the override, the budget hits at the end. So we need a fresh approach, because again, we may have, there may be people on town floor that are looking to make a motion that might change things. So we need to, right up front, reiterate the finance committee's position and what we're recommending and why we're recommending it, for all the reasons. So, so I think a second very small presentation for Article 6 also needs to be done. And that could be done, again, I could present it, or somebody different can also present it. But I think we need something short and sweet on the supplemental as well.
It's kind of interesting. I caught a conversation on Facebook last night that kind of indicated that the finance committee had nixed, and that's the word that was used, had nixed the grant writer. And so I quickly defended the finance committee in that, we don't make budget priority decisions as far as what positions and what the money would necessarily be used for. And so, it's this whole thing of finger pointing that, who did what to who, and, the finance committee is the one that's, not allowing these things to happen. It's not a question, as I indicated, we have no authority. This is our recommendation, and these are why we make the recommendations that we do. It's up to the department heads to determine what priority they want to spend that money. And if they felt that there were other things that were more important than a grant writer, that's not on us. I mean, that's not on the finance committee to determine. We know what amount of funds can be used. And so that was really, there's just so much misinformation out there.
Thanks, Cindy. Hugh, go ahead.
I just say Cindy did the right thing, but remember, there's a mentality out there expressed by a member of the school committee some time ago. It's the job of the finance committee to find the money. It's our job to spend it. That isn't true, but there is that perception. So therefore, since the money doesn't grow on trees, and we point out that point, we are then saying people can't do things that should be done. We're pointing out reality, which is sometimes painful, frequently painful.
Thank you, Hugh. Gary?
Is this presentation too long to run on the cable access? Is that going to be too much of a?
Well, what I had done last year, which unfortunately, since we're so late, I had done a longer PowerPoint presentation as well. So I took this memo and turned it into a PowerPoint presentation, and I narrated it. And then that went on to cable. And so I think it came to about 25 minutes long is what it came to. So I showed each slide. I talked very briefly about the slide, and that got put down. I'm just not going to have time at this point to narrate it. We're just so late on everything and everything that's come up. So I just don't see being able to do it. I can't commit to doing it. I'd love to do it again. But I'm just not sure I have time. But
I wouldn't worry. If anybody is willing to spend the time to go through that. They're involved enough to understand it without doing it. And those who aren't that involved aren't going to spend the time.
Yeah, it was,
Whoever-
yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it was just, it's trying to come up with different audiences, right? So someone might not download a PowerPoint presentation or, download the PDF from the website, but if they see it running on cable or they saw it on YouTube, they might watch it and listen. But, so it's just, might reach different people in different ways. But, again, I can't, we're just running out of time.
Karen, do you think you'd be comfortable sitting down with Irene Buck and doing it via like an interview versus a presentation? That if you fed her some questions to ask, that you could summarize and keep it to 15, 20 minutes. And I'll have to go back. So Irene did an election night interview with Shauna, as well as Betty. So I'm going to go back and see how many people. It's always amazing when you look to see people just don't watch these things. I mean, they really don't. You look at the count and you go, okay, well, there were 18 views. Oh, and I had to jump out twice, so I got counted twice. So, you don't know how many times you get counted when you get interrupted. So I don't know how many people really go and look at these things, but maybe there's enough. I am going to go and look though and see how many people viewed that YouTube video that Irene did on election night. It was actually quite good because it explained to people how important their vote is, particularly at town meeting. People always feel like they'll just spend the money that they want. I mean, if you're only one of 250 or one of 200, your vote counts a lot. If you think in a presidential election, you're one in, 200 million, 250 million, you still go out to vote because your vote counts. What if you're only one of 200? Your vote counts even more on a local level, and yet people don't seem to want to participate, but they will participate on a national level when their votes really are diluted. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from voting, but I'm encouraging them to vote where it really matters. But I'm not really sure, that message gets out. But anyway, I am going to check it out and see how many people viewed that.
All right, thanks. Al-Lise, you have your hand up. Hi, Al.
Hello. So I have as always, a slightly different take. What I understand that we're going to be voting on Article 6 is to move forward to a ballot. Whether it is 3 million or 5 million or whatever whatever the floor amendments might be. But we're not trying to convince people to vote one way or the other this thing. What we're trying to do is to say that we need to move this ballot forward. So I'm not quite sure that the town meeting floor or the Irene Buck interviews are gonna spend time before the May town meeting. Afterwards, maybe so, but I just feel that all we need to really do is move the target forward.
Well, let me just clarify that first.
Please do.
So Article 6 is a supplemental budget appropriation. So Article 5 is the fiscal 24 full budget. Article 6 would be if an override were to be passed at a future town election, this would be the budget supplement to that. So
Got it.
that's what's being voted on the warrant. So the ballot question is the override, but this does set the stage. So it doesn't determine that it's a $3 million override, a $5 million. It doesn't determine that. So the Article 6 is as recommended by the Finance Committee, that it's a $1 million supplemental budget appropriation, and we list the details. So that's what's being voted on. So in concept, there still is a push that needs to be done there, because you still have to convince everyone that we need more money to begin with, that there needs to be supplemental funds. So,
You know, I
you know,
agree with you
that's
at all.
important.
I'm glad you phrased it that way, Karen. I just keep, and believe me, just like you, even though I'm not a part of the finance committee or whatever, but I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about this stuff because it is so critical to Westport. It is so, in my opinion, I believe wholeheartedly that we need the structure of the 1 million, the 3 million, I'm sorry, 1 year, when that has been said. And I don't believe, I just think that the $5 million bomb that is probably going to be thrown at us is not only going to work, but it's not fiscally responsible.
Right. And just to follow through on so if at town meeting, if Article 6, which is the supplemental budget appropriation, let's say it doesn't pass. So let's say it got voted, more against than for.
Mhm.
The select board still could proceed with a ballot question for the override.
Yes.
And so if they did that, and presuming that passed, then you'd have to hold a special town meeting to then appropriate the funds. So just if town meeting, this doesn't happen, it doesn't mean it's over. It's up to the select board if they choose to have the ballot.
No, I hear you. And then I'm going to sign off with this last comment. I don't believe, from what I've heard from the last couple of select board meetings, didn't dial into tonight, that they are going to do the fiscally responsible thing if they approve something different.
So I think, yeah.
Meaning that I think the 5 mil is on the table. I think that'll blow up in front of the electorate as a whole, and they can put it on the ballot or they don't, but it's not going to fly.
Agreed.
They're still talking about this $5 million?
No, the only conversation that the select board had about the 5 million was earlier. It was just a deliberation, and it wasn't, they didn't proceed with that. So they're meeting this evening to finalize the warrant, but
there and more than just rumors, there are rumbles, almost an earthquake, that we are going to have these are my words, okay? So I don't want to pin the tail on the donkey. My words, that there will be an ambush on the town floor of an amendment to increase it to $5 million, and that would blow everything sky high.
Well, if that's the case, then
So-
if that's the case, let's say you play it out and that's the case, we haven't even voted on that. We wouldn't have enough information to even make a recommendation.
Correct. Absolutely.
And I can tell you right now, if that's the case, I'm voting no.
Me too.
Yeah,
I'll
I
vote
don't,
right now.
let's just make things sensible. That can't happen. Because the 5 million or the amount of the override comes up in the election, which is after the town meeting. Now the selectmen can be persuaded to this or that, but that's not the warrant. That's not the town meeting. I think both you and Karen are right in that the persuasion will become necessary after the town meeting, because the election is what determines the amount of an override, if any. But it does help to set the stage, and there's no harm in talking about it every time you can. You remember it, I keep using that old saw, but the how you persuade people, at least many years ago when I was in the Navy, tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them you told them. The same thing, a repetition. I think it may have been Karen. Someone saying the fourth time it penetrates. Well, we made it 4 times. There's no magic number, but the more you talk about it, the better. And I'll give you a little story from my past. In Wayland, where I lived, there was a project to have a major conservation set aside for a major parcel. There were all kinds of complications. a lot of opposition, some in favor. It came up and went down for 2 or 3 years of people talking about it. When it finally came to a vote, it was unanimous. People were so tired of hearing about it, they wanted to get rid of it. And we're not quite to that stage. But again, the more you hear about it, the more sort of quasi acceptance comes from, oh yeah, I've heard about that. It's nothing new. We're going to, okay, all right. And that's important. Wearing down the opposition just by volume sometimes is important.
Yeah, I don't think the moderator is going to allow it anyways.
Well,
Why
but-
would-
I don't
But
see it
why-
applying. They're not going to add 5 million to the present budgets. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But
And that's
can't
what town
someone,
meeting will deal with.
but can't someone on the town floor make a motion of that if they chose to?
Yes,
Well-
I don't think so. It's not in the warrant.
No,
Okay.
on
It
Article
is in the
6,
warrant.
they could change the dollar amounts on Article
Right.
6, absolutely.
Right, they could, someone on the floor could change those dollar amounts.
But I think we're all saying, if the major increase in the amount still has to be voted, the amounts that are talked about at this point are reasonably expansion, et cetera. Suddenly adding a whole bunch of money on top that no one has asked for, I don't think that has a snowball's chance of actually being passed for the town meeting, because it's really out of left field.
I would push back at just a little bit, Hugh, and you and I are 99% in agreement on a variety of things. But having said that, there has been a history of people that have put floor amendments or other amendments on the floor and deck. And we won't go into the details, but stack the deck. And if that is a possibility, and once that happens, you never know where the amendment may go.
True, but I would have more concern about the possibility of a rate on free cash to throw money into budgets from the floor amendment. That's
Sure.
separate, but that's not the override structure we're talking about.
Fair enough.
I don't think we have any free cash left.
Go ahead, Buzzy. Buzzy, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, I've never researched the subtleties of this doctrine, but Steve Forrest has in the past occasionally ruled that there are limits to increasing the amount of money in some proposal if they reach a point where the town taxpayers have not been given due notice of what was at stake.
Hmm.
I don't know if that would apply here, but he has on occasion said there's some limit to the increase if it then becomes unfair to those people who did not know what was at stake.
Does he need that in advance, Buzzy?
Pardon me?
Does he need that in
No,
advance?
he's on the floor.
Yeah.
On the floor. Somebody will get up, make a motion, and my recollection is he will say at this point, I think this goes beyond the boundaries of fair notice to taxpayers.
Remember that the warrant article is treated as the warning to the taxpayers of the things that are going to be considered. And that's right in line with what Buzzy is saying, that how far you can go beyond what the warrant proposes is marginal. That's why dollar figures haven't been in some warrant articles anticipated to be in the motion. The two go together, but what's in the warrant or not in the warrant tends to set the agenda.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So this is all extremely helpful, right? So in any event, so we just need to be prepared for, so whatever article it is, if there's a motion on the floor, we all need to feel compelled to go to the mic and state the finance committee's opinion. If it's swaying significantly or far from what it is, and we want to get up there and restate our opinion. So even though we have printed in the warrant, we recommend 6-0, whatever, we have a duty to explain why it's 6-0. So we can feel free to get up to the mic and say whatever it is. And so You know, Cindy and I will have mics in front of us, but we don't have an open forum either to speak. We have to kind of get in the same line. And sometimes Steve doesn't see us when we're trying to raise our hand back there. So feel free as a finance committee member to get up to the mic and speak. And, you know, as you're representing the finance committee, you're representing the finance committee's vote and opinion. You can certainly go up as a resident, but you would just need to clarify that you're speaking as a resident if you're have some, you know, something different. But, you know, we have the duty to kind of help explain things as well.
Yeah, you're sort of behind Steve, but we're in front of him, so we can wave at him and get his attention.
Thank you.
I would hope that if in fact it does change, or if whatever the amount is, that Steve would allow us to at least you know, adjourn a little bit, have a discussion on that, and then make a recommendation as a group. And I know he's done it in the past when we try to use free cash. I think 2 years ago for a backhoe for the DPW, he allowed us to go in the back, reconvene, and come back with a recommendation, because I think town meeting would want that. You know, I'm just assuming they'd want a recommendation from the finance committee. Not much, and we can individually do that, but I think as a group, we should probably ask Steve that we have to meet.
Yeah, I mean, we have our recommendation. We've made it. So that's our recommendation. Al Lees, go ahead. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, excuse me. I simply want to say that after months and months and months of looking and doing deep dives into the numbers, listening to you guys and women who are fabulous, I want to say that if the town meeting votes to do what you have suggested, which is the 3 million and, you know, the million, blah, 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 blah. I'm all for it, but I will stand up independently, of course, because I'm not part of any real committee. And if it's anything other than that, 5 million or whatever it might be, I am going to tell the town meeting that I will want to have this go to a ballot, because I think that it is important enough for the town to go to a ballot, and I will oppose anything more than what you have recommended. So I don't want anybody blindsided. I want to be very clear about it, and that's my position, that we do need an override. We need an override to kind of smooth out the curve, to be able to go a few more years and to be able to do the due diligence to get our fiscal house in order. But anything, you know, that explodes or goes beyond this, I will not support it. But I will support going to the ballot, because it is so important for the people in this town to be able to go and vote their conscience.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I wanted.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate it. So thank you. So, okay. So I think does anyone have any other changes that they'd like to make to the fiscal 24 budget or the memo? Are we good to get that thing finalized and distributed?
Good to go.
Okay, terrific. We should probably just entertain a motion to approve that to go.
So move.
Second.
Great. Thank you. Gary?
Yes.
Hugh?
Good morning, night.
Lawrence?
Yes.
Zach?
Aye.
Buzzy?
Aye.
And Cindy?
Aye.
And Karen, aye. Thank you very much. That we'll get that out tomorrow. I will then turn again, like I said, I'll start to just extract the information right from there into a very summary PowerPoint, and I'll send that along to you guys. You know, and if I have the chance, Gary, I'll narrate it, but I can't guarantee anything. The next piece is a very simple Article 6 presentation. Do we have any volunteers that wants to put something very small and quaint together for that?
I'll work on it with someone else.
Terrific. Thank you, Buzzy. He's looking for a hand.
Lawrence, Karen had suggested you.
Yeah, I'll be happy to help edit and wordsmith that with you, Buzzy.
Well, what I need is a number cruncher, and
Well, that ain't me then.
all right, good.
Well, and thank you both. So, the numbers are there. So the Article 6 is the $1 million. I mean, so we,
Right.
Conceptually, there's no guarantee it's 111. There's no commitment that it's a $3 million. So there's only so much we can present, right? So what's in Article 6 is what it is. So there's not a tremendous amount of numbers to have to crunch, right? So it's really kind of,
Yeah,
Trying
you've already done all of that masterfully anyway, so
yeah.
we'll just copy paste.
yeah. So it's
Awesome.
it's really, talking about the fiscal responsibility and it showing restraint on expenses until the town gets out of its structural deficit. So it's those sort of conceptual things that, I think are important to put in the document.
It's also
Do you
important that
you
it
offer
anticipated-
generous copyright fees?
What's that?
Do you offer generous copyright fees for your
Oh.
land, your material?
I shouldn't I?
We have
I
to keep
know.
in mind, though, there's going to be a challenge to the way that that money was distributed among the 3 years. And so I think we need to prepare for that.
And I think we do, but there's nothing official on Article 6 that discusses that, right?
Okay.
But you definitely factor it in a way, to say there's been financial planning to be structuring how it works. But again, Article 6 is just fiscal 24. So,
And although we have just 5 minutes to present at town meeting, there's no reason why something can't be available beforehand.
mhm.
Right.
Mhm. Okay, so should we, so my husband was watching the select board, so I think the article, the warrant got, no issues, so there's no suggested changes from the select board in terms of the numbers, so it seems as though, no change there.
Terrific.
Yep.
Terrific.
Yep, so do we want to, I know we don't want to, but do we want to schedule a meeting for next week just to review a presentation that would be done for the override so we can collectively do it? Or we could try to do it through email, but I don't want a deliberation. So do we want to have a meeting for next Tuesday and kind of just review that override presentation?
Can always set it, but just
Yep.
not meet.
Right, okay.
And Karen, are we gonna set just so Jessica will be ready, set a meeting for 30 minutes prior to town
Right.
meeting?
Yep, that's a good idea. We may as well get that posted now so we can do that.
6:30,
And, yeah, perfect. 6:30 on the night
May
of
2nd,
May
right?
2nd. So the only other thing I was thinking of, we had talked a while ago with Bob McCarthy's retirement, that we were going to try to do something of some sort in some capacity at some point to recognize him. And I don't know if town meeting is the place to do that. And if it is, should we incorporate it somehow there?
I think that would be,
That's a good
I
idea.
think that would be a good place to do it, provided the moderator allows you to bring that up. I don't see why he wouldn't, but I think, it would be on the record, it would be,
Mhm.
publicly disseminated. I mean, I think that would be a good honor for him to have that. So I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah. Could someone help write that narrative, what we would like to say?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
So,
Or
what
maybe
to
maybe you would
I'll
like
let-
to do that.
Yeah, I would help you, but what to say about McCarthy is a challenge.
How many years did he serve on the finance committee?
I think it was 23.
23. Did he serve on any other boards?
No, not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
but he's been involved in everything, as you know, directly and indirectly with, as a consultant, formerly informal to the police department.
Whether asked to or not.
Well, mostly a number of family members that are involved in town government as well.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. Well, appreciate if both of you,
Are wide.
Well, maybe you could at least send along some good talking points, and I can try to pull that together. I mean, you certainly know him better than anyone.
Maybe you could try doing something and that would inspire me to throw
Okay.
something.
All right, that's fine.
great. Thank you both for that. Appreciate it. Al, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for everything you're doing. This is yeoman's work, and it's beyond yeoman's work. It's unthankful work, but it is totally necessary. And you know, I just respect everything that all of you are doing, and I mean this from the deepest part of my heart, because Westport means, just like for all of you, Westport means so much to me. And this, it is, I'll leave it at that. I will just leave it at that. It brings a tear to my eye. So thank you so much for all you're doing.
Well, thank you, Al. Appreciate it. And thanks for you being behind the scenes in the last year. So we appreciate that too. So that's very helpful. All right. So I think we can move on to the next part of the agenda, which I think is just approving our minutes. And if someone could help me with our dates that we're approving.
Today is the 18th. It must have been the 11th. 4/11.
April
So-
10th and April 12th.
Oh, that's right. The
right.
10th and the 12th. Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. Right.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jess. That's right. We see we're off kilter. So I'd like to make anybody for a motion for the minutes from April 12th, 2023.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. I will do a roll call. Gary?
Abstain, I don't think I was here.
Okay. Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Lawrence?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Buzzy?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
And Karen, I. Great. Now the minutes of
The 10th. You just said the 12th.
Oh, I did the
You said-
12th first?
Yeah.
Okay, so now the
think you
minutes
did.
of the 10th, April 10th, 2023.
So moved.
Second,
Gary?
Yes.
Hugh?
aye.
Lawrence?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Buzzy?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
And Karen, I. All right, this is almost wrapping up our weekly meetings. I'll be looking forward to having some Tuesday nights off.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, so we'll tentatively put Tuesday and we'll see where we go. For just really presentation materials would be really the only thing we'd need to meet for. All right,
Are we down with Karen? Are we still
Yeah.
down?
what's that?
We still down a member?
We're down 2 members.
2 members. So Steve hasn't said.
Have not heard anything, so have not heard. So hopefully he's starting to line some people up for July, you know.
We had kind of put him on pause until town meeting, so
Oh,
he
okay.
may or may not have some people.
Right. Because there became a point here that, you know, to bring someone in so late, it would be difficult to bring them up to speed to be able to really vote, you know, with some knowledge. So,
But we may have to Shanghai someone off the street.
we may, and we'll have to.
Didn't Al volunteer?
Yeah.
We keep
That's
trying.
okay.
right.
While I have the opportunity before
Sure.
we adjourn, Gary, I sent you an email today, a personnel board email, so just check your
Yes.
email, okay?
All right. So if no further business, nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Yep.
Gary,
Aye.
Hugh,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Buzzy,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and Karen, I. Thank you all. Good night.